Okay, so welcome back to In the Kitchen with Jelly and his new kitchen setup. And tonight we're going to do something that I've worked with a little bit and it seems to be working good. It's a boneless chuck roast. And I'm calling it a two-step chuck roast because I found that cooking the roast anywhere near what time these vegetables can cook, let me say this, it changes it. I will say the other ways that I've done it, it works okay because when you reheat it, it cooks further and all that stuff. But what I was trying to get, and it seems to be working good, is a chuck roast that's ready to, right then, when you serve it, it's good to go, and your vegetables are still somewhat, intact. So what I have here is a 2.82 pound boneless chuck roast. I've got some baby potatoes. I'm going to bring the camera in a minute where you can see it better because I'm going to rough cut the carrots, the celery, this onion, these baby bella mushrooms, the 4 cloves of garlic, baby red potatoes, and baby white potatoes. I'm going to sear the roast in avocado oil. That seems to be working good. It handles heat real well, and I like it. We're going to use a lot of this right here, if not all. But the two-step part is this. I'm going to cook this for around 1 hour and 15 minutes under pressure. And that's a lot longer than I went in any of the other ones I've done on my videos. So I'm going to cook this for 1 hour and 15 minutes and then let it natural release for at least 15 minutes. If it hadn't done it, by then I'll release it. No big deal. It won't be that much left. And then I'll take that out. I'm going to put the vegetables, what I can get in there. I'm not going to crowd it. By the way, this is the 8-quart Ninja, and that's one of the reasons I started doing it. I guess I can get a little more vegetables in there. And that's close to a 3-pound roast. But what I'm going to do is I'll put this on a trivet, by the way, while I'm cooking it for the 1 hour 15. But then I'm going to place these in there, and I'm going to cook it for another 3 to 4 minutes. And then we'll do a quick release. And I think you'll find what I've found that it works really, really well. The roast is it's not a slicing, it's not a roast you slice. It'll turn a little, it gets a little more fork tender. And to do that and do it all at one time, and it's still not a big deal because you're cutting this way down from what it would normally take in, say, how I used to do it, an enamel-coated cast iron pot. That was like 4 hours. It took a long time. So we're cutting it down to under 2 hours, I would say. And you'll have a roast that's cooked fork tender and vegetables that still have a little bit of their texture and crunch. And it's not like even at 30 minutes, as you know, and I've said before, I don't think you can overcook some of this stuff in a roast especially, and I don't think you can, but it doesn't hurt to cut back on some of that time these vegetables get. So I'm going to move the camera around, get everything set up, and I'm going to get some of this started, and I will be right back. Y'all hang on. Okay, so right quick, just to show you again up close what's going in, and there's no need to worry with these vegetables. I've got plenty of time to rough cut those. And like I said, I'm probably going to leave most of these whole. I may cut a couple of them in half. But here's the 2.82 pound roast, a boneless chuck roast. And what I'm going to do is get some avocado oil hot in here. And get this out of here. And we're going to get this seared. And then we'll go from there with the pressure cooking. But I'll be right back. Okay, so I've added 2 tablespoons of avocado oil to the Ninja. And I brushed it around in there with this silicone brush. And then I brushed the roast all the way around, all 4 sides. Because, well, as you can see, almost all pressure cookers, electric pressure cookers, are domed on the bottom. Instant Pot is, I know for sure. So you don't get a good coating up here where the meat's going to land. So I brush it a little bit. So anyhow, that being said, it's kind of elementary or simple, but now you know. Then you press sear saute, and it's on high, and I'm going to leave it there, and then you press start. And when that gets hot in 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, maybe when I see it smoke, I'll bring you back, and we're going to drop that in. But I'll be right back when that happens. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind, avocado oil doesn't smoke till around 500, and I don't really want it 500. You can see I'm around 420, 425, and I mean, that's plenty hot enough for me. So what I'm going to do is put this roast in there. And as you can hear, it's plenty hot. Now, I'm going to spin it a little bit because I want that oil on it. And then we're going to let that stay right there for a few minutes. I'm going to flip it around and just the obvious stuff of searing all the sides. I may not get all the sides, but both sides and pretty much all I can of the whole roast. But anyhow, I will be back when I get that seared. Okay, just to kind of show you, that's probably been about 5 minutes. And it's simple. A lot of people are kind of intimidated by it, but there's nothing to it. I mean, you just got, there's a little oil popping around, so you want to be somewhat careful, but it's nothing but what you see right here. I mean, just turn it, maybe move it every once in a while, but anyhow, it's simple, nothing to it. Okay, so I'm going to call that done. That's probably 8 to 10 minutes. I don't know, I didn't time it. It's a little tricky to grab because it wants to do what it wants to do. You've got to change its mind, but you want to immediately get that heat cut off. Whoops. Get the heat cut off, let that cool down. As a matter of fact, keep from making such a mess. It does splatter. I mean, it splatters a little bit, but no crisis. Put the lid down and it'll cool down. In fact, you can lift that liner out and make it do that faster. So might do that just to stop some of the splattering. But anyhow. Okay, so there it is, seared and ready to go. And I went ahead, obviously, like I said, and turned that pot off to keep it from splattering. And I'm going to let it cool just a little bit before I put this in there because it gets a little violent sometimes if you do it right away. So it's been off a couple of, maybe a minute or so. So we're going to add that and try and scrape those bits and pieces off the bottom, but that's all we're doing right here. And see, it still wants to act up just a little, but it doesn't take it long. It'll cool down. I did lift that liner out for just a second. Once I pulled it out, kind of let some of that heat get away from it. But in the Ninja, you don't have to worry about the bits and pieces because I'll be honest with you, there's not many. Nothing sticks to this surface. It's impressive. Now I'm going to put a decent amount of this in here. Maybe I'm going to call that 3/4 of it. So that would be 3/4 of 32, about 16, 20, about 24 ounces is what I put in there. I had to do that math right quick. And then I'm going to put the trivet in there, and we're going to set that back in and start it cooking. So I'm going to get the camera set up a little bit different because we got to where you can see the timers and all. But I'll be right back. Okay, and this being the 8-quart, I'm going to go ahead and use the whole 32 ounces. So I'm just going to put it in there. It's not going to hurt. It's just more gravy or more broth. So there's what it looks like right now. 32 ounces of beef broth. We're going to put the lid on and lock it. Make sure it's sealed. Going to go pressure on high for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And there it is. Press start. And we are off and running. And we will be back shortly and start the next step 2 of the 2-step pot roast. Be back in a minute. Okay, so I obviously have plenty of vegetables, but I mean, it's the way they come. I'm not going to keep what's going to be left. I'll never use all of that, but either way, the point is, you got plenty of time to get all this ready. And like I said, I'm even a little rougher cut than a normal because I just want to, every time I do it a little different, and I'm going to see how that works. So some of them are cut in half. These mushrooms, I left a couple of them whole, but I mean, it's whatever you think works for you, plus whatever the vegetables you want to put in it works for you. That's obvious. But you can see I got 23 minutes left on 1 hour and 15. And I had plenty of time to do this. By the way, this is made by Xylist. And They're not paying me. I just bought it. I'm just pointing it out. It minces instead of presses. You know, when you press, and it leaves it a little bit more. I guess you'd say texture to it instead of pressing it. And I'm anxious to see how it does. First time I ever used it. That's all 4 cloves of the garlic, and all you do is put it in there and you twist it back and forth, and it makes minced garlic and fresh minced garlic. Nothing wrong with the bottle kind. But there's what I'm going to use. A little bit of, or hopefully most of all of that, and very rough cut. So we will be back in, well, 22 minutes. When it times out, I'll probably bring it back, and then we're going to let it go for at least 15 minutes of natural release. So see you then. Okay, we are at the end of the hour and 15 minutes. So now all we're going to do is let that do a natural release till that counts up to 15 minutes, and if it hadn't dropped by then, we're going to release it. Okay, so as you can see, it's 15 minutes and the red pin has not dropped. So let's see how, there's not a lot left, but there's still some pressure. Let it bleed down. We're going to lift it out, put it right here, put our vegetables in. Be right back. Okay, there it went. Took another 2 minutes to bleed down, so it would have taken a while on a natural, but let's see what we got. Oh man, that looks like a pot roast to me. It looks like almost like a steak. Anyhow, I'm going to get that lifted out and onto here, and we're going to put vegetables in there. I may have to add some water or broth or whatever, but I'm probably just going to do water, maybe some Worcestershire, but we'll see. Let me get that out of there, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here's kind of my point of the whole thing. You can see that is fork tender, and very good. So I'm going to get potatoes on the bottom, and maybe the onions and some celery. I'm going to put it on the bottom, and then we're going to put this on top, and I'm going to see about my water level when I get it all in there, but I'll be right back. We'll get that done. Just to kind of show this garlic mincer, you can see I think it did a real good job, and I'm going to put all that right here. I'm going to save a little bit for the top of the roast, but not much. In fact, I'm putting it in here. It'll all end up in the same place eventually. And you can see I've almost got all of those vegetables in there already. And I'm going to set that roast on top of there, which is literally about to fall apart. And then I'm just going to kind of line it around and finish it up. And I don't think, I'm going to pour a little bit of Worcestershire and maybe a slight amount of water, but not a lot. The Worcestershire, I'm going to put a half a tablespoon. So let's do that right now. And I think it's kind of critical on the amount. Worcestershire, you can go too far. You really can. And of course, not enough. But half a tablespoon can't be too much in that amount. In fact, you could probably do more than that. Now, as far as water, we're right at the limit of what I'm going to put in there. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to lay a couple of pieces right there. And that mushroom, I don't want to waste that mushroom. This house, everybody here loves mushrooms. If you don't get there in time, you don't get mushrooms. So, I am going to add just a slight amount of water. And those vegetables are going to lose a little bit of water. They're going to add a little bit too. But that right there, and that was probably maybe, I don't know, half a cup. And I think the level looks okay. I would say, I know one person asked me one time, let's get the rest of this garlic out and I'll try and get to the water level. So you'll know exactly, but it's right there at the bottom of that spoon. There's where the water level's at. And I think with the vegetables and everything going on, I think it'll be fine with that. So the only thing I might do is try and get just a little bit more of this garlic because I don't want to waste it either. Okay. Now all we got to do is put the lid back on and seal it. And you can see we're at 24 minutes right now, so we waited. Anyhow, you know, you can do the math. We're at 24 on everything we did. We got, in other words, we after it finished the hour and 15, then we did the what was it, 15 minutes. Now we're at 24, so 10 minutes to do that. No big deal. Don't know why I'm even talking about it. We're gonna do pressure, high, and we're gonna do 4 minutes. And we are off and running. Make sure you seal that, like I said, and we'll be back in just a minute and see how that looks. Okay, here it is. Time to do quick release. And there it goes. Be right back. Okay, there it went. And I don't know if you can see that, but 5 minutes and 40 seconds or so for that to bleed down. It took a long time for it to come up to pressure too. All that liquid is what it is. But let's see what it looks like. Oh, it looks excellent. So I'm going to give that a minute to breathe, and then we're going to get it out and put it on this platter, and I'm going to eat some of it. So the two-step pot roast is complete. Let me see how it tastes. Okay, there it is. And I mean, that is a perfectly cooked all the way around. If there's anything wrong, the celery is a little overcooked, but you know what I mean, leave the celery out. I mean, as far as these potatoes, I just broke this one in half. I'll show you on this one. That is a well-cooked potato. The carrots, they still got, you know, some firmness to them. I mean, you could even back this pressure down a little bit. You could, back the time down the second time where I went 4 minutes. And that's just because it took it so long to come to pressure. It took it a good bit to get to pressure. So it was cooking that whole time, you know, these potatoes and everything was cooking. And then it took a while for it to bleed down. Well, they're cooking then too. So maybe next, you know, mess with the pressures. Every time you do it, it's a little bit different. And this roast was a little different, and the amount of, definitely the amount of vegetables I put in there was different. But this might be the way to get that right there, which is really close to, you know, like I've done it before in, say, the enamel-coated Dutch oven. And I think this might be the way to do it. It takes a little longer. There's another step. The step's really not that big a deal. So the celery, though, either leave it out or, you know, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with it. It adds flavor. I love celery salt. People use it all the time. And that's what it does. It adds a celery flavor. Just don't dip it out if you're worried about it being overcooked, because it's going to be overcooked. I don't think you could get those potatoes and the carrots and the mushrooms and everything else done right, and the carrots turn out great, because that mushroom is perfect. There's nothing wrong with anything on this plate. Absolutely. That's perfect, except the celery. If I was going to call something out, this is celery. But anyhow, I'm fixing to fix me a plate, and I'm going to eat it. So y'all hang on just a second. Okay, so as far as the end result of the two-step pot roast, it's really worth trying. I like the other kind. They're a little faster, but for crock pot or matching to a crock pot taste or the enamel coated cast iron Dutch oven that I used for years, this is it. It is a fork tender just like out of a crock pot or the Dutch oven like I used. The potatoes, I mean, they still got firmness. I mean, they still got a little snap when you pop them, so, as do the carrots. And you could even back, like I said, you could back the time down, because I guarantee these would have been done in 2 minutes, because it takes so long for it to come up. But now the celery again. But that celery adds flavor to your broth. I mean, I wouldn't eliminate it. I wouldn't. These mushrooms are absolutely perfect. And around here, you got to be on your toes to get them. And that's why I add so many, because my family loves them. And this is perfect. So, I've already tasted it, and I would put this, and I will before, but it's hard for me to talk with that in my mouth. But I'm going to tell you, this is a bulletproof pot roast recipe, and I'll guarantee it. If you try just what I just now did, I think you and your family will love it. And it's simple and it's easy. Anyhow, In the Kitchen with Jelly007.com. You know, that's where you can find me, Jelly007.com. Nothing to do with YouTube. Just go to your browser, Jelly007.com. Like, share, subscribe. I thank everybody that watches my videos. I thank you very much. I'm blown away by my subscribers, how many I'm getting, and the comments and everything. And please comment, and please cook this and see if I'm not right, and comment if I'm not. How about that? Or comment if I am too. So anyhow, y'all have a good night. Call your friends and tell them to watch my videos. Y'all have a good night. Come back to see me. Bye-bye.